As some of my friends know, it drives me absolutely nuts when the icons within an app are incongruent, when one icon uses a rounded style and the other is a square edge. Um, and I think that Facebook is a particularly good example of really sloppy icon design. And I understand how this sometimes can happen. A product might be undergoing a sequential set of upgrades. And as the app eventually gets to the final version, there will be disorder between the old icons and the new icons. And I understand that. But from what it seems here in Facebook, perhaps the designers just don't care, or they don't notice the difference in icons. And this often happens, it seems, when icons are used between different groups or different designers or different libraries. And it just makes the app look horrible. Here's some screenshots taken from early October 2018 in the iOS version. But let's start with the good, because Facebook Messenger, I think, must be being worked on by an entirely different team. This team has their head screwed on right. It looks really well done. The icons, the outline icons here in the bottom navigation bar, as well as in the top right, all are the same line width. They all are the same rounded design. They look well together. They fit well together. When they do use a solid fill icon, such as for the camera, it fits in with that style being used elsewhere. They're not too over-designed, and when they switch to solid fill, the app icons still work. And so I think this is well done. They clearly want the user to press on the button in the top right to start a new conversation. Therefore, that inactive button is blue, whereas the rest of the inactive buttons are gray. And this is just fine that this is different than the rest. All right, now we open up the regular Facebook app. This here is a complete disaster. Let's not get distracted, but these lines between the different panels, the gray horizontal lines, are very thick, very dark. Most apps, Twitter, Google, Facebook Messenger even, have gone to much thinner, much less contrast between the background and the foreground. But anyway, let's not get distracted. In the area of the icons, there's at least probably 5 different types of icons being used on this one page. There's these top bar icons, these what's on your mind icons, the icon here from the archive, the like and comment buttons, the icon here beside sponsored, and then finally, and most concerning, the bottom navigation bar icons. These are a complete disaster, which we'll come back to at the end because none of them line up properly when you switch from active to inactive. We'll start here with the top bar. These icons are solid fill. They're reasonably large. They just don't fit with everything else. They're too big and loud. They're too boxy. I think it would have been much better if instead of using this camera icon that they use the camera icon being used in Facebook Messenger. This one is also slightly more round and bubbly, which fits with their very bubbly bottom navigation icons. It's also a bit more simple because there's more, they've removed the flash icon or lens or viewfinder icon part, and it's just more refined. The top doesn't protrude out. It fits into a circle better. And then the other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is the fact that in Messenger, they give the icon some space here on the edge. Whereas in Facebook app, they have an unnecessarily wide search bar with an unnecessarily large search magnifying glass inside of it. The Facebook app has also made this perfectly round, the edges on their search field, whereas at least the edges on Messenger here match their icons better. We now look towards the What's on Your Mind icons, which have no similarity to any other icon in the app. First, there are 3 different colors, which again are pure random compared to all the other colors in the app. They're sharp and pointy and boxy, this live icon with over-designed middles, which is of course the standard style of Facebook, which is to over-design their icons. And yeah, they just don't fit. Now we look towards this Your Archive icon, which I know it's even hard to make out here what it is. We come to the like and comment icons, which these look good. They're well proportioned. The line weights of the icon match the line weight of the text very well. They're approximately the same style as far as how rounded the edges are. And I think these are good. And now we turn towards the bottom, the navigation bar. The big problem with these icons is when you switch from the inactive to the active, so this one here is active now because it's in color, they don't line up. And this is really annoying. And to make this easier, what I've done is I've gone through and copied out the active form of each of these icons and overlaid it here with the inactive form. You see the first icon, you'll see the second icon and the fourth icon very clearly are different sizes between the active and inactive states, but all of them actually have problems. So the timeline icon, there's 2 bars at the top of that icon, and the very top bar jumps down when you move to the active state. That bar isn't lined up. As we discussed, the friends icon, the bodies get closer together between the 2 states, and the whole icon appears to shrink inside. Now, I understand that sometimes in some apps, the designer may choose to make the icon get smaller or sometimes to get larger when you activate that icon or that tab. But the fact that only 1.5 icons changes that way and it's not consistent throughout the entire set of icons suggests this is just more sloppy than actually intentional. And if someone tries to tell me that this was actually A/B tested and that users actually prefer the small icon, which gets smaller, whereas the other 5 icons don't, I would love to see that data because it just seems weird. This is the new icon, the watch list. It was just added recently. And notice that the play button doesn't line up. How there's on that gray to white icon, there's some space at the top. So even the play icon doesn't line up between the 2 versions. Also, the stand also gets wider in its line weight, and then the bottom part of the stand moves away from the TV between the active and inactive states. It's a little bit excessive, the whole amount of movement going on there. Your profile, again, the outer circle is the same size between both states, but the inner circle with the actual body gets smaller. The bell, it stays the same between the 2. It's fine. And now we get to the hamburger menu. And this is a complete disaster. Look very closely at the 3rd line in the menu and how it doesn't line up in the color version in the active state versus the inactive state. In the inactive state, it appears that the 3rd bar is actually too low. And if you go in and you zoom in and you actually measure the amount of pixels between the top bar, the middle bar, and between the middle bar and the bottom bar, that bottom bar is actually, depends on how you scale it, but 1 to 2 pixels too low. And that's why we're seeing movement between the active and inactive. And I don't know, this drives me absolutely nuts. I always thought the inactive button looked a bit weird or off. And when I went and measured it out, it turns out it is. And if we were to summarize maybe and go back here to this final tab, the menu, and we have just pure chaos. There's 2-tone icons, multi-tone icons, partial 3D icons, flat icons. Some are line drawings, some are monotone, some have rounded design, some are sharp and pointy, some have the overall construct within a circle, while others are more designed into a square or rectangle. Some have a thick outer border, some are a thin outer border, some the outer border is black, while others the outer border is just a darker tone of the inner shade's color. And this memories icon stands out like a sore thumb. It has nothing to do with any of the other icons. And so if we were trying to define an overall theme in Facebook's icon design style, I think it would be safe to say that the answer is none.